Welcome to the journey of stillness, where each Zen story opens like a gentle doorway, leading you back to your breath, to yourself, and to the peace already within. In this restless world, who among us has never known fear? Fear of loss, fear of pain, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough, fear that tomorrow will change. These quiet fears seep into every corner of life, urging us to hold tighter to people, to honor to dreams, even to the weary sense of self. But the Buddha taught, fear is only the illusion of the ego. When we believe there is a self that must be protected, fear begins. When we think something is mine, we tremble at the thought that it might one day be gone. Yet, if we can let go, release the idea that this belongs to me, a miracle unfolds. Nothing is ever truly lost, for nothing ever truly belonged to us. When we see deeply into impermanence, fear melts away like mist in sunlight. And when we trust in the deathless nature of life itself, there is no longer anything to cling to, because we are that very flow, neither born nor dying. Tonight, let each story be a gentle reminder guiding you toward peaceful sleep. When the mind lets go, the body rests. And when fear has no refuge left, sleep becomes a meditation, a place where you are cradled in pure serenity. Now I invite you into the first story, about a Zen master named Rensho, who once faced a tiger deep in the forest, and in the instant between life and death, he realized that fear exists only as long as we think. This life is mine. When he released that thought, fear vanished, and something extraordinary happened. Have you ever paused to notice that most of our fears do not come from the outer world, but from the thought, this might harm me? From the moment we believe there is a me that must be protected, fear takes root. We fear loss, pain, loneliness, being forgotten. Yet if we look deeply, all fears return to one root, the fear of losing the self. We think we fear the dark illness or the death of others. But truly, what we fear most is the sense of no longer having anyone to call I. A young monk once asked his teacher, "Master, how can I stop being afraid?" The teacher simply smiled and said, "First find out who is it that's afraid." Fear cannot exist without someone to hold it. And sometimes only at the edge of death, when every attachment falls away, do we see between fear and awakening lies only a single breath. That very breath once came to a Zen master in a forest long ago. It was late summer. The bamboo grove was still wet with dew beads of water rolling down the green stalks, sparkling like jewels in the early sun. An old Zen master left the monastery at the foot of the mountain, carrying a worn cloth bag and a bamboo staff polished smooth with age. He walked toward a small hermitage at the summit, slow, unhurried steps, as if walking through his own breath. Each step left no trace, as though he was dissolving into the rhythm of the earth. Then suddenly the sky broke open. Rain poured, wind roared through the forest, thunder rolled like drums beneath the ground. Dark clouds swallowed the sky. The woods dimmed into shadow. The master searched for shelter only to find fallen bamboo, slippery soil, flashes of lightning tearing the heavens apart. He wandered into a part of the forest he had never seen before, where there were no human footprints, only the scent of wet earth and the sound of water threading through grass. Amid the chaos of rain and wind, came a deep rumbling growl, low, heavy like thunder rising from the ground. Through the downpour, a tiger emerged. Huge, drenched, its golden eyes burned like two flames in the mist. It moved slowly, step by step, claws sinking into the mud. The distance between the two beings shrank only a few breaths apart. The master stood still. His hand gripped the bamboo staff, but it did not tremble. His eyes were calm, gazing straight into the tiger's. Rain drummed on the leaves, wind howled through the bamboo. The heartbeat within his chest all merged into one sound. In that instant, instinct screamed, "Run, run now." But his feet did not move. Where could he run when the storm covered the forest and death stood before him? And suddenly he saw what he feared was not the tiger, but the thought. It can kill me. It was the me that trembled, clinging to life that feared. He inhaled deeply. The cold breath of the forest filled his lungs, mingled with the scent of rain and soil. He set his staff down, closed his eyes, and whispered softly, "This body is not me. It comes and goes like rain, like leaves. If the tiger wishes to eat, let it feed on this emptiness." A stillness fell, perfect, absolute. The rain continued, but its sound seemed distant, like a faraway song. His mind opened wide, vast, beyond the boundary of body or death. No more fear, only pure awareness within each breath. The tiger stopped. Its eyes met his, no longer fierce but strangely quiet, as though facing something beyond its understanding. Then, without a sound, it turned and walked away into the rain, leaving heavy prints in the wet earth. When the growl faded, the master opened his eyes. The storm was easing. Pale sunlight broke through the gray clouds, glimmering on the drops, clinging to the bamboo, shining like 1,000 tiny crystals. He smiled, not because he had survived, but because he had seen clearly the one who made him afraid had never been outside. In that moment, he understood when there is no self to protect, there is nothing to fear. Only life itself, flowing naturally like rain, like wind, like breath, peaceful and free of grasping. The story may sound extraordinary, yet in Zen, it is utterly natural. The Buddha once said, "Fear arises from clinging to self. When the self dissolves, who remains to fear?" We fear because we believe this body is me. We fear losing reputation because we think reputation is me. We fear betrayal, being forgotten, or death, all because we believe there is a separate I that must be defended. But look deeply. This body is only a gathering of earth, water, air, and fire. It borrows every breath, every drop of water, every grain of food from the universe. So what truly can be called ours? Like Master Rensho in the rain, he did not fight the tiger. He faced the shadow within the shadow of the ego. When the light of wisdom shines, that shadow disappears. The tiger becomes simply part of nature, like rain, like wind. In Zen practice, there is a state called egoless emptiness, where the line between self and world fades. When the mind is empty, when there is no one who fears fear, has nowhere to live. This is not theory. It is direct experience, known only when the mind is still and the breath is deep. Modern psychology says fear is the brain's survival mechanism triggered when we sense threat. But meditation shows that fear can be observed. When you observe it, you are no longer inside it. When you are no longer inside it, it no longer controls you. Like a driver no longer lost in traffic, but calmly watching the road pass by. The Buddha said, "One who sees the body as not the self goes beyond fear." In daily life, you may never face a tiger in the forest, but you meet hundreds of tigers every day in the form of anxiety, pain, or uncertainty about the future. And like the master before awakening, you react, you run, resist, try to control. But what if just once you stopped? Instead of saying, "I'm afraid," ask who is afraid. Instead of fighting fear, look deeply into it as the master looked into the tiger's eyes. You'll see fear has no true substance. It's only the reflection of a thought. If you practice mindfulness each day, just 3 minutes of still sitting, slow breathing, watching the feeling in your chest, you'll discover fear is only a passing wave. It rises, then fades. Science also shows that when we breathe deeply and focus on the breath, the brain's alarm center, the amygdala, calms down, and the body returns to safety. When you realize this body, these emotions are just waves in the vast ocean, you no longer need to control them. And when you stop controlling, you stop fearing. Letting go of fear doesn't mean becoming numb. It means opening not only to accept loss, but to feel life more deeply as it truly is. Just like after the storm, when the master saw sunlight shimmering on raindrops, it wasn't the light of the sky, but the light born from a mind that no longer clings. Tonight, before you sleep, try this simple practice. Place your hand on your chest, breathe slowly and whisper, "Nothing belongs to me. This body comes and goes. These emotions are just small waves in the great ocean." After 3 such breaths, you'll feel lighter. Fear will begin to dissolve. Sleep will come like a gentle breeze with no tiger, chasing no broken dreams. Because in stillness, you realize there is no one left who needs to be safe. That night in the forest, Master Rensho did not run. And because he did not run, he passed beyond fear, beyond death, into the heart of true life. Fear ends when there is no "I" left to defend. But there is another form of fear more subtle. The fear of losing control. It drives people to prove, to win, to dominate. And one day, a warrior with a sword came to challenge a Zen master to see who was truly stronger. In that encounter, when the sword broke in two, what remained was not defeat, but absolute surrender. Have you ever noticed that often we are not truly afraid of failure? We're afraid of losing control, afraid of not being able to handle a situation, afraid of being overpowered, judged, or looked down upon, afraid of losing, of seeming weak, of being seen as not good enough. Deep down, it's not just fear, it's addiction. An addiction to the feeling of winning, of being in charge, of staying in control. But have you ever wondered, what if real strength isn't about winning, but about no longer needing to win? We often believe that control brings safety. Yet strangely, the more we try to control, the more we become trapped by our own mind. The more we want others to listen, the more they close their hearts. The more we try to prove ourselves, the further we drift from peace. like a person gripping a rope too tightly. The rope binds no one else, but their own hands bleed. After Master Rensho overcame fear in the forest through letting go, today's story opens another door, a subtler fear, the fear of losing power position, and the ego that always needs to win. And the story of Master Neo's broken sword is a profound reminder that sometimes when everything seems shattered, that is when true strength is revealed. It was late autumn. On a hilltop, the old Zen temple lay among withered bamboo groves. Dry leaves covered the mossy roof. The wind whispered through the trees like the breath of the earth. In the courtyard, Master Neo quietly swept the fallen leaves. Every movement was slow and steady, as if he were sweeping not the ground, but the dust of the mind. Suddenly, the sound of horse hooves broke the silence. From afar, a young samurai approached. His armor gleamed in the afternoon light, and his hand gripped a long sword. When he reached the gate, he dismounted and called out, his voice cutting through the wind. "Master Neo, they say the mind of Zen can defeat the sword. Today, I want to see if that's true." The master lifted his gaze. His eyes were gentle yet deep as an autumn lake. "If you wish to see, then come in." The samurai stepped through the gate and placed his sword before the master. His face was tense, a mixture of pride and unease. "I have trained for 10 years. With one stroke, I can cut a blade of grass in the wind without letting it fall. But my mind has never been at peace. I want to know which is stronger, the sword or the mind." The master smiled. His eyes shimmered with calmness, as though they had seen all things before. "Then I shall be your opponent." They stepped into the courtyard. On one side stood the young warrior, firm and fiery. On the other, the old master, still and grounded like a tree that had weathered 100 storms. The autumn wind rose, swirling golden leaves around them, like thousands of butterflies. The samurai bowed, then shouted, swinging his sword down at lightning speed. The master raised his sword to block. The clash of steel rang sharp and clear. In that instant, the master's sword broke in two. Everything fell silent. The onlookers thought he would panic, step back, or counterattack. But he didn't. He simply placed the broken sword gently on the ground, pressed his palms together, and knelt to meditate right there in the courtyard. Leaves continued to fall around him, settling softly on his robe. His face was serene, his eyes half closed, still as a lake untouched by wind. The samurai stood frozen, his heart pounding. In that stillness, he felt a strange power, not of muscle or weapon, but of absolute composure. Even with eyes closed, the master's presence made him feel small. A trembling rose within him. His sword slipped from his hand and fell to the ground. Tears filled his eyes. "Master, I have never met anyone so strong." The master opened his eyes. His gaze was gentle, like moonlight dissolving in mist. "I did not defeat you. It was your own mind that just conquered itself." At that moment, the samurai understood. The sword in his hand was broken, but another sword, invisible and far sharper, had also shattered inside him, the sword of the ego. And there, among autumn leaves and quiet wind, he bowed deeply for the first time in his life before a power that needed no weapon, the power of peace. People often think strength lies in control. But in the Buddha's teaching, true strength lies in letting go. Master Neo did not lose. He simply let go of the need to prove victory. When his sword broke, he saw clearly there was nothing to keep, nothing to lose. That is the state of egolessness, of absolute freedom. The urge to control is the root of suffering. Those who seek to control others suffer. Those who try to control emotions suffer. Those who try to control the future suffer even more. The Buddha once said, "One who grasps is like one who holds water in their hands. The tighter the grip, the faster it escapes. But those who let go keep everything." In Zen, letting go is not weakness. It is the wisdom of non-resistance. Like water soft, yet carving through stone. Master Neo used no force, no reaction, no defense, yet he melted his opponent's pride through awareness alone. From a psychological view, when a person enters the state of wanting control, the brain triggers anxiety and defense responses. The body tenses, the breath shortens, the heart races, the whole system shifts into fight or flight. But when we accept, when we stop resisting, the nervous system returns to balance, releasing serotonin and oxytocin hormones that bring calm and clarity. So letting go is not losing. It is the highest form of awareness, where mind and world no longer divide into win or lose, right or wrong, strong or weak. Like the moon reflected on water, whether waves rise or fall, the moon remains whole. In daily life, perhaps you too have been like that samurai, wanting to prove you're right in an argument, wanting to stay on top in a relationship, wanting others to see you're not wrong. But have you noticed each time you try to prove yourself, your heart grows a little more tired? The more you want to win, the more you lose yourself. The more you try to control, the more you are controlled by the very emotions you want to master. Sometimes you argue with someone you love, not because you want truth, but because you don't want to lose face. And when the anger fades, all that remains is emptiness. To win over someone, but lose your own peace, that is the deepest defeat. In Buddhism, letting go of control does not mean giving up on life. It means living with trust, knowing that everything unfolds according to its causes and conditions. When we stop interfering with fear, stubbornness, or the need to prove, life naturally returns to balance. Like Master Neo, when he placed his sword down, he did not fail. He simply returned to the stillness where there is no one left to win or lose. That is the serenity the modern heart longs for amidst the noise of striving. Tonight, before you sleep, try a simple practice. Think of something you've been trying to control, a person, a result, or a fear. Place your hand over your heart. Take a deep breath and whisper, "I cannot control the wind, but I can let down my sail." That sentence alone can quiet the mind. Because when we let the sail down, the wind is no longer an enemy. It becomes an ally that helps us move farther. Likewise, when we let go of control, life is no longer a battle, but a river flowing gently, peacefully, and without fear. As you lie down, let every sword in your heart rest too. The plans, the arguments, the words left unsaid. They don't need to win. They don't need to lose. They just need to rest. And so do you. Sleep will come softly, like the last leaf of autumn falling on a still pond, silent yet making the water tremble in perfect peace. When you release the need to control, you touch true freedom. But to truly understand that, you must look deeper into the nature of fear itself, the fear of disappearing, of dissolving, of losing individuality, like a raindrop trembling before falling from the cloud. If I fall into the ocean, will I still exist? And the Zen master smiles, No, you won't disappear. You will become the ocean. The next story is the journey of that raindrop. Have you ever wondered why humans fear loss so deeply? We fear losing loved ones, losing our jobs, losing reputation, losing a part of ourselves. But in truth, what we fear is not loss itself. It is the fear of losing the sense that I am still me. We fear when what's familiar begins to change, because we think we will disappear along with it, like a raindrop falling from a cloud, trembling and asking, if I fall into the great ocean, will I still be me? And life gently answers, like the whisper of the wind. When you fall, you do not disappear, you become the ocean. But to understand this, one must dare to fall, to dare to leave the safe cloud of the self, the opinions, memories, titles, and identities we mistake for who we are. The next story continues the journey of Master Neo, the one who let go of the need for control to discover true strength. This time we go deeper into a more subtle and profound fear, the fear of dissolving, of vanishing, of no longer being I. A very small story about a single raindrop, but sometimes the smallest things reveal the greatest truths of life. Summer came early on the mountainside. White clouds drifted above the green pines, and the wind carried the scent of damp earth after a night rain, cool and pure. Inside the Zen monastery, the leaves were still wet, and drops of water fell one by one onto the stone courtyard, sparkling in the morning light. The stillness was so complete that even the birds calling from the distant forest could be heard clearly. On the stone steps of the veranda, a young novice sat quietly. His eyes were fixed on a single drop of water hanging from a pine branch. Under the sunlight, it shone like a crystal gem, so clear, so alive. He stared at it for a long time, then softly asked the master sweeping nearby, "Master, that drop of water is so beautiful, but when it falls to the ground, won't it disappear?" The master paused, looked up at the trembling drop, and smiled gently. "Do you think it disappears, or does it return?" The boy tilted his head, puzzled. "Return? But where could it return to, Master?" "It's gone." The master pointed toward the ground, where the moss grass and soil still glistened with morning dew. "Look closely. Is the earth dry? Are the leaves withered?" "No, Master, everything is moist and fresh." "Exactly. The drop didn't vanish. It's in the soil, in the roots, in your breath. It only changed form to continue nourishing all life around it." The novice gazed where the master pointed. The drop finally fell, shattering into countless tiny sparkles before seeping into the earth. Later that morning, after meditation, the novice still felt uncertain. He approached the master again as sunlight streamed through the courtyard and mist floated in the air. "Master, I still don't understand. If the drop dissolves into the ground, how can it still be itself?" The master poured more tea. Steam rose curling into the sunlight. His voice was low and calm. "When you fall into the ocean, you no longer see yourself as a raindrop. But you haven't disappeared. You have become the ocean." The novice looked into his cup, watching the steam blend with the air. He whispered, "But if I no longer know where I begin or end, how can I not be afraid?" The master set the cup down, his eyes deep and still as a lake. "Fear only arises when you believe you are separate, when you realize you are part of the whole. Who is there, left to fear?" A breeze passed through, rippling the surface of the tea. The aroma drifted softly, like an invisible whisper. The novice bowed his head, eyes glistening, not knowing if it was dew sunlight or tears. A profound silence spread through him, as if he had just touched something beyond words. From that day on, whenever it rained, he no longer ran for shelter. He stood beneath the sky, letting each drop touch his face, his shoulders cool and tender. He felt the rain merge with his breath, dissolve into quiet stillness. And within the sound of falling rain, he heard something deep, like the voice of the earth, like the breath of heaven. You do not disappear. You are returning. The story of the raindrop is a delicate metaphor for the self and the oneness of life. We fear dissolving because we believe we are separate from the world. But the Buddha's teaching reminds us there is no separate self, only the endless flow of interdependent causes and conditions. The raindrop thinks it's independent, yet it's born from the cloud, from vapor, from sunlight, and from the ocean itself. Just like us, born from parents, from earth, from the breath of countless living beings. From the moment we say I, we forget that origin and fear begins. The Buddha taught attachment to self is the root of all suffering. The larger the ego, the deeper the fear. When we believe only we matter, every loss becomes a catastrophe. But when we see ourselves as part of the whole, we realize nothing is ever truly lost. It only changes form. In Zen, this is called the insight of non-self, the understanding that everything interpenetrates and cannot be separated. Those with this insight no longer fear death because they see that death is only continuation, like the raindrop merging into the ocean, not gone, but becoming wave vapor and rain again. From a psychological view, the fear of losing oneself is also the fear of losing identity, control, or social position. But the ego is not permanent. It's only a collection of memories, roles, and experiences. When we let go of those labels, we return to a boundless, freer, clearer awareness. A scientist once said, "Energy is never lost, it only transforms." So too with consciousness, it doesn't disappear, it only changes state. When we see this truth, fear dissolves. What we thought was an ending is in fact a returning. In daily life, fear of loss makes us cling. We cling to the people we love, the things we know, the familiar image of who we think we are. But the more we cling, the more we suffer. Some fear aging, believing losing youth means losing themselves. Some fear separation, thinking losing love means losing their heart. Some fear change, believing when the old fades, they will cease to be. But the truth is, we have never been who we think we are. We are the flow of life itself, moving, transforming, becoming in every moment. Like a drop in the ocean, never still yet, never lost. The Buddha taught all things are impermanent. To see impermanence is not to despair. It is to dwell peacefully in the present, because when we understand that everything is changing, we stop clinging, stop resisting, stop fearing. We learn to love fully, not to possess, but to honor the fleeting beauty of the moment. Modern science also shows that accepting life's impermanence helps regulate the nervous system, reducing stress and enhancing creativity. That is why meditation heals, not because it erases problems, but because it allows us to dissolve into them. Just like the raindrop merging with the earth, that merging gives birth to new life. When you truly understand this, you no longer fear loss. You begin to see only continuity, a gentle, endless flow. At night, you can practice like the raindrop. Sit quietly, take a deep breath, Imagine every worry, every role, every label you carry as clouds slowly dissolving, and you as a clear light raindrop ready to fall, falling into the breath, falling into stillness, falling into the embrace of life itself, where there is nothing left to protect, nothing left to prove. As you close your eyes, whisper softly, "I am not lost. I am returning." Repeat it a few times before sleep, and you'll feel your heart lighten. Because nothing ever truly vanishes, not even you. Every emotion, every memory, every act of love all return to their source, the boundless life that holds everything. Let tonight be the night you too dissolve like a raindrop merging into the still ocean of awareness. No more noise of thoughts. No one left to fear. Only breath and a peace so deep you realize nothing was ever lost, no one ever left. When the raindrop knows it is the ocean, fear fades like a cloud. Yet even then, there are those who, after letting go of so much, still hold one last question in their hearts. If I let go of everything, will I have anything left to live for? And another story answers that about a monastery engulfed in flames, where everyone rushed to save precious things, except one master who stood calmly in the fire, smiling. When asked, "Aren't you afraid?" he replied, "When there is nothing left to lose, even fire cannot burn me." There is a quiet fear that almost everyone carries within the fear of losing. Losing a loved one, losing money, losing reputation, position, image. Even the fear of losing what has already passed, youth memories, or a part of ourselves we once took pride in. And so we start holding on. We hold on to the past through nostalgia. We hold on to the future through calculation. We hold on to the present through control in small, anxious ways. But the more we hold, the more we suffer. The more we fear loss, the more we lose our peace. The Buddha said, "When there is nothing left to lose, fear has nowhere to live." Yet to reach the place of nothing left to lose, we must walk through the fire of letting go, the fire of dissolution, the fire of allowing the old to burn away. The next story begins in a mountain monastery, where the fire came as the final lesson for all. That night, the forest behind the temple suddenly caught fire. The wind was fierce, and the flames spread like a red river surging through the darkness. The crackling of dry bamboo and the thunder in the distance blended into a single sound of panic. Smoke rose high, turning the sky into a furious orange glow. The fire descended from the forest, licking the old tiled roofs of the monastery, a place that usually knew only the sound of bells and breath of stillness. Monks ran out in haste. Some carried buckets of water, some clutched scriptures, others tried to save Buddha statues or shouted to one another through the thick smoke. "Hurry, save the Buddha statue first. Don't let the fire reach the main hall." The monastery became chaos, windfire, and human cries merging into one storm of fear. Ash filled the air, and the flames illuminated faces drenched in sweat and terror. Amid all that motion, only one person did not move. It was Master Enko. He stood still in the courtyard, palms together, eyes half closed. Through the roaring wind, he continued to chant the Buddha's name, his voice deep and steady, like a bell ringing from the heart of the earth. The firelight flickered across his face, bright yet calm. One disciple, terrified, ran to him and grabbed his arm. "Master, please come out. The roof is about to collapse. The master opened his eyes and smiled gently like rising smoke. Go, my child. The fire can only burn what can burn. The disciple froze confused. In the master's eyes there was no fear, only clarity, as if he saw something others could not. He knew the fire could only destroy form, not the formless. Then the roof groaned. A loud explosion. The tiles collapsed, the wood cracked, and the flames roared higher, lighting the night like the end of the world. Everyone believed the master had perished. When morning came, rain poured down, quenching the ashes. The monks returned in silence, tears still glistening in their eyes, but before them appeared a strange sight. In the middle of the blackened ground where Master Enko had stood the night before, the spot remained untouched. The roof above him had not fallen. The surrounding wood was only slightly scorched. A thin mist drifted through the smoke and ashes, forming a soft halo of light like a pale moon at dawn. The master sat quietly, eyes open, palms joined. He looked at his disciples and spoke softly, yet his voice carried through the stillness. Do you see, fire cannot burn what has been released? Then he bent down, scooped a handful of ash into his palm, and let it fall slowly through his fingers. Only those who still cling will be burned. No one spoke. The morning wind blew gently, carrying the scent of smoke soil and the warmth left from the night's fire. The monastery fell silent. Amid the ashes, they understood letting go is not losing, it is ceasing to be lost. When there is nothing left to hold, even life's flames have nowhere to cling. And in that moment, everyone saw clearly. True peace is not found in escaping the fire, but in realizing that you no longer burn. The fire in this story was not only a real blaze, it was the symbol of impermanence, of the inevitable change in life. Fire comes in many forms: a crisis, a loss, a farewell, or simply the day you look in the mirror and realize time has taken something away. The Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this clearly, fear disappears. We fear because we still have something to lose. My possessions, my people, my life. But when we see that everything is merely borrowed, arising and fading with conditions like fire that comes and goes, only then can we truly rest in peace. Master Enko did not stay because he was reckless. He stayed because there was nothing left in him that the fire could burn. He had already burned it away through mindfulness, through understanding, through letting go. In Buddhism, this state is called a mind without attachment, a mind that does not cling to any form. Such a mind cannot be afraid, for fear exists only when there is something to hold on to. In psychology, this is called inner freedom, when one's sense of worth no longer depends on possessions or external approval. Those who live with such steadiness remain calm in adversity and recover more easily after loss. Zen does not teach us to avoid the fire. It teaches us to see the fire and not be burned, to recognize that our true nature has never been harmed. In life, there are fires every day, not of flames, but of emotion. A careless word that wounds, a job lost, money gone, faith shaken. We rush to save our possessions, our pride, our image, our position, just like the monks who tried to save the temple's treasures. But the more we save, the more we burn, because it is our clinging that feeds the fire. Only when we dare to look directly at the fear of loss do we see we have never truly owned anything. This body is borrowed from the earth. Our breath is borrowed from the air. Even the people beside us are temporary companions on the path. If all is borrowed, what is there to lose? Letting go does not mean indifference or denial. It means understanding that everything is a flowing river, and our role is not to grasp, but to be fully present in each moment as it passes. Science also shows that when we release our emotions, the parasympathetic nervous system activates and the body naturally returns to balance. So letting go is not only a philosophy, it is a biological healing mechanism of body and mind. Tonight, as you lie down, imagine a small flame burning in your heart, the flame of worry, of holding on, of fear. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, imagine blowing that flame out. Whisper quietly, "Nothing is mine. Everything is just passing through me." This sentence is not denial, it's a reminder. Peace comes only when we no longer grasp. When you allow everything to flow, sleep will come naturally as the reward of a mind at rest. If tonight you hear the rain, the wind, or the ticking of a clock, let the sounds pass through you. Don't resist. Don't try to control them. Just observe, listen, and return to your breath. That is meditation in sleep, resting through release. Like Master Enko, standing amidst the fire, you too can stand in the noise of the world and remain still. Not because the world is quiet, but because your mind no longer seeks peace outside itself. When a person has nothing left to lose, they touch true freedom. But there is another subtler fear, even deeper than the fear of loss, the fear of being seen, of being judged, of not being understood. And that fear itself becomes the wall that keeps us from living truthfully. One misty morning, a Zen student came to Master Horan, his heart heavy with the fear of judgment. He said, "Master, I cannot bear the gaze of others." The master silently handed him a cloudy mirror and said, "When the mirror no longer reflects, who is left to judge?" There is a kind of fear that cannot be seen, yet it silently controls most of our actions. The fear of being judged. We try to act correctly, speak carefully, and live in ways that please others. And in chasing approval, we lose ourselves like a mirror that only reflects the faces of others, forgetting its own true light. Have you ever wondered why we fear the gaze of others so much? A single criticism, a doubtful look, a careless rumor, all can make the heart heavy. But when we truly look within, we realize the one who judges is not real, and the one being judged is not real either. There is only the mind reflecting itself. After the fire at the monastery, Master Enko once said, "When there is nothing left to lose, even fire cannot burn me." But there is another kind of fire, quieter, subtler, more persistent than real flames. The fire of judgment, comparison, and envy that people cast upon one another. The next story begins on a misty morning in an ancient temple when dew still clung to the pine branches, and a young student carried within him a familiar fear. The fear of not being loved unless he was perfect. Horan Monastery stood deep in a bamboo forest, where the wind made sounds like the breath of the earth, sometimes low, sometimes light, like nature's invisible chanting. That morning, as the sun rose over the mountain peak and mist floated around the moss-covered tiles, a young monk entered the meditation hall. He bowed and knelt before Master Horan, a teacher revered not only for his profound wisdom, but for eyes so still they seemed to see into the hearts of those before him. The student's voice trembled. "Master, I am so tired. The master looked at him calm and steady. "Tired of what, my child? I am tired of not being understood. Whatever I do, people judge me. If I stay silent, they call me arrogant. If I speak, they say I boast. I don't know how to live without disappointing someone." The master said nothing. After a moment, he rose and went inside his room. When he returned, he carried an old mirror. Its surface was covered with dust so cloudy that it reflected nothing clearly. He set it down before the young man. "Look into this." The student bent forward staring, but saw only his shadow blurred in the dust. "Master, I can't see anything clearly." The master nodded, a faint smile appearing on his lips. "Good. When the mirror does not reflect, who is there left to judge?" The student lifted his head, puzzled. Master Horan looked at him, his voice slow and gentle, each word falling like drops of water on a still pond. "When your mind keeps watching to see what others think of you, you have already lost yourself. The clearer a mirror is, the more faces it reflects. But the mirror of Zen is a cloudy mirror. It reflects nothing because it has already seen everything." The student was silent. Only the sound of bamboo leaves swaying in the wind filled the air. The master continued, his voice deep and warm like a distant bell. "When you do what is right, even those who judge you are helping you practice. They are mirrors of impermanence, teachers of patience. But if you live to perfect your image in their eyes, you will forever lose your true light within." The student bowed his head, and a tear fell onto the mirror. The clear drop rolled across the dust, leaving behind a thin line of brightness like a silver thread. The master whispered softly, like the forest breathing, "Do you see, the mirror doesn't need to try to shine. It only takes one pure drop to make it bright." Outside, the wind stirred the bamboo. The first sunlight broke through, and a faint beam reflected off the old mirror, just enough to prove the truth of his words. From that day, the young monk no longer lived to please others. He practiced silence, worked with a clear heart, and no longer tried to explain or defend himself. When misunderstood, he smiled. When judged, he bowed his head, for he had understood the judgments of others are like wind across a lake. Only when the water moves do the ripples appear. One night, meditating alone, he remembered the old mirror and his teacher's words. Only when the mind no longer reflects images can it see things as they truly are. He smiled. In that moment, his heart became still like water after the rain. He no longer needed to be seen or understood. He had realized true peace begins when we stop being a mirror for others and return to simply being ourselves. The story of the cloudy mirror carries a deep truth of Zen. The mirror is the mind. The dust is illusion. The thoughts, memories, and identities we cling to in order to define ourselves. The Buddha taught, "The mind is like a bright mirror, but when covered by the dust of desire and delusion, it no longer reflects reality." A true practitioner does not try to polish the mirror by staring into it, but by ceasing to reflect, by no longer chasing any image of me. When the mind stops seeking its reflection, praise and blame lose their power, not because we stop caring, but because we are no longer ruled by them. That is inner freedom, what everyone seeks, but few find. In modern psychology, this is called self-objectification, when we view ourselves through the eyes of others. It breeds anxiety, insecurity, and the feeling of living in an invisible cage of judgment. But when we learn to cloud the mirror, to stop constant self-reflection, the brain rests, the breath softens, and we return to true presence. Zen does not teach us to escape the world, but to see it with eyes that do not cling. A person whose heart is like a cloudy mirror, not reflecting, not tinted, is someone who has truly understood freedom. In everyday life, judgment surrounds us at work, at home, online, even within our own minds. We try to become the most acceptable version of ourselves, and in doing so, we lose who we really are. The Buddha said, "If you know who you are, no one else needs to tell you." That is the key to freedom from the gaze of others. Let your mind be like the cloudy mirror, seeing but not holding. When praised, just smile. When criticized, smile as well, for both are reflections of their own mind, not yours. Science also shows that when people live in self-acceptance, levels of cortisol, the stress hormone drops significantly. In other words, accepting yourself is not only spiritual wisdom, but also mental health. Those who accept themselves are not easily hurt, not because they are numb, but because they understand judgment is only an echo, and an echo cannot harm the mountain unless the mountain answers back. When night falls, spend a few moments before sleep observing your mind like a mirror. Who is looking into it? Is it your tired face after a long day, or the eyes of others still lingering in your thoughts? Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine blowing the dust off the mirror. With each exhale, a layer of judgment fades. With each inhale, space opens for stillness. Don't try to make the mirror shine. Just let the mirror rest. When the mirror no longer reflects, the mind becomes spacious, and that is when you begin to fall asleep in peace. In that sleep, you will notice every voice in your head, every praise or blame, right or wrong, beautiful or ugly, dissolving like mist. Only one truth remains: you are. You don't need to be seen. You don't need to be understood. You simply exist whole and at ease. When judgment can no longer wound you, you touch true freedom, the kind that can never be taken away. But life still holds subtler fears, not from people, but from nature itself, from the ever-changing rhythm of existence. Like a farmer who fears the wind will ruin his crops, so he spends his life building fences against it, forgetting that some plants survive precisely because they know how to bend. The next story is about him, the man who spent years fighting the wind, until one day a Zen master taught him, "You don't need to fight the wind, just plant trees that know how to sway." Have you ever wondered why we always try to resist what cannot be avoided? We fear losing, so we hold on. We fear pain, so we avoid. We fear change, so we build walls around our hearts to keep out the winds of impermanence. But there is a paradox. The more we try to protect ourselves, the more vulnerable we become. Because life, like the wind, is not meant to be controlled, it is meant to be felt. If you build fences to block the wind, the fences will fall. If you learn to sway like the bamboo, you will survive every storm. After the story of the mirror that reflects nothing, where we learn to let go of judgment, we now move into another lesson, letting go of resistance. It is no longer the fear of how others see us, but the fear of life itself. Deep down, humans always worry, if I stop resisting, I will be swept away. And that was the mistake of an old farmer in an ancient Zen story, a man who spent his whole life building fences against the wind until he met Master Gensha. In a southern valley where golden rice fields stretched to the base of the mountains, there lived an old farmer named Ren. He lived alone in a small house with faded tiles, his back bent from years of labor. His hands calloused, his skin darkened by the sun. Though he was diligent and kind, his face always carried a quiet, constant worry, something even the villagers could never quite understand. That worry came from the wind. Every year when the strong winds arrived, his rice fields would be devastated. Young stalks snapped, tiles blew off the roof, the harvest was destroyed. On stormy nights, he could not sleep. He would sit silently listening to the wind whistle through the cracks of his door, his heart tightening as if everything he owned might be taken away. So he began to build fences around his field. At first bamboo, then wood, then stone. Year after year, the fence grew taller, thicker, stronger, but his heart never felt safe. Each time the wind blew, he went out to check, tying more ropes, hammering more stakes. The villagers would laugh and say, "Old Ren, the wind is everywhere. How can you fence it out?" But he only shook his head. "I must. If I don't, the wind will destroy everything." One day, a wandering Zen master passed through the village. People called him Gensha, a gentle monk who carried no luggage, only a bamboo staff and a kind smile. Hearing about the farmer who feared the wind, he went to meet him. Master Gensha found Ren in the field, sweating under the sun, his white hair blowing wildly. The old man was tying ropes, hammering stakes, building yet another fence, as if he could keep out the sky itself. The master watched for a while, then softly asked, "What are you doing, old man?" Ren looked up, wiping his brow. "I'm fighting the wind. Last year it destroyed my harvest. I won't let it happen again." The master smiled gently. "The wind doesn't destroy your field. It's the stiffness of the rice that makes it break." Ren frowned, irritated. "You don't understand. Without these fences, the wind will ruin everything." The master's eyes were kind but deep, as if seeing through time itself. "You don't need to fight the wind," he said. "You only need to plant trees that know how to bend." Ren paused, surprised. "Trees that know how to bend? What do you mean?" The master planted his staff into the soil and pointed toward the next field, where a grove of bamboo grew close together, slender, soft, yet unbreakably strong. The wind blew through them. They bent, gracefully swayed, and then stood tall again, as if dancing with the wind rather than resisting it. "Do you see?" the master said. "The stronger the wind, the deeper the bamboo bows. But the tall, rigid trees, they are the ones that fall." Then he added, like reciting a sutra, "Life doesn't ask us to be strong. It asks us to be soft. You fear the wind because you think it is your enemy. But the wind only teaches one thing: do not resist what is natural." Ren fell silent. He looked at his calloused hands, then at the tall fences surrounding his field. All his life, he had fought against the wind, the rain, even against the creeping years of old age. But the more he fought, the more exhausted he became. The master looked at him once more and said softly, "Your fences can keep out the wind outside, but not the storm within." Then he walked away, his figure fading among the fields. That night, the wind came again. But this time Ren didn't bar the door or tremble. He sat still, listening to the wind flow through the roof. And for the first time, he wasn't afraid. He opened the door and stepped out, watching the moon hang over the misty fields. The wind brushed against his skin, cold yet gentle, and in that sound he heard something new, a whisper. I do not come to destroy. I come to remind you, be soft like the bamboo. The next morning, villagers saw him taking down his fences, planting young bamboo along his fields. When the season of wind returned, the bamboo swayed and bowed, but did not break. The rice stayed green, and in the middle of the breeze, they saw old Wren smiling as light as the very wind he once feared. The farmer who feared the wind is a mirror of all of us in modern life. The wind represents impermanence, the forces we cannot control. Time, emotions, change, and the unknown. The fences represent resistance, our effort to control life to avoid pain. But the Buddha taught, the more you avoid suffering, the more suffering arises, because at the root of fear lies non-acceptance of the present moment. We want sunlight without rain, peace without change. But without wind, the sky would stagnate. Without change, our minds would wither in false safety. Master Gensha taught, you don't need to fight the wind. You only need to plant trees that know how to bend. This is the spirit of Zen, living in harmony with life, not against it. Freedom doesn't come from preventing storms, but from learning how to move with them, to bow, not to break. Modern psychology calls this resilience, the ability to recover. Strength is not the absence of falling, but the ability to rise again. Those who are flexible suffer less because they understand everything is part of the flow, not a catastrophe. Zen does not teach passivity. It teaches awareness to see the truth of change and act from calm understanding. That is action born not from fear, but from wisdom. When you work love and live without fear, no matter how the wind changes, you remain steady because you are no longer the fence. You are the bamboo. In daily life, we are all like the old farmer. We fear others changing. We fear losing what we have. We fear not being strong enough to endure. But in truth, what exhausts us is not the wind, it is our resistance. Like the waves of the ocean, if you float, you will not drown. If you fight, you will. The Buddha said, the wise do not resist the winds of life, they move with them, as water moves with the river. The softer you are, the deeper you become. The more you let go, the stronger you are. If you face difficulties at work, see them as the wind, don't block, observe. If someone leaves your life, don't cling. Let them go like a leaf drifting downstream. If your mind worries about the future, smile, for fearing a wind that hasn't come is like building a wall in the dark. Science also shows that people who practice adaptive letting go, accepting change instead of resisting, have lower cortisol levels and stronger immune systems. Letting go is not giving up. It is the wise action of a peaceful mind. At night, take a moment to sway with the wind. Sit or lie down. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Imagine yourself as a bamboo. Each breath is a breeze you simply bend without resistance, without tension. If worries arise, silently say, I don't need to build fences. I only need to sway. This practice not only calms the mind, but also deepens your sleep. When resistance stops, your nervous system returns to its natural rhythm. The wind outside still blows, but you are no longer swept away, because within you there is the flexibility of bamboo. Let the sound of the wind tonight be your own Zen teacher, reminding you that there is nothing to fight, only something to understand. And when you understand, all fear dissolves like mist at dawn. When we learn to sway with the wind, fear disappears because we realize that every change is simply life breathing. And yet, there remains one more subtle fear, the fear of separation, the pain of losing what or whom we love. Once a young novice cried when a feather fell into the fire. Master Sozen said, "You cry because you think the fire killed the feather, but it only returned it to the air." The next story will bring us to that truth that every loss is in fact another form of returning home. In the early morning, when dew still clung to the old roof tiles of a hidden temple in the valley, the sky opened in a pale shade of gray, the color of dawn not yet awake. The temple bell echoed through the bamboo grove, its resonance fading slowly into the mist like smoke. Everything was so still that one could hear the soft fall of ashes in the fire pit, the rustle of dry leaves touching the ground, and even the sound of one's own breath, light and fragile, as if a single breeze could dissolve it. In that silence, a young novice sat huddled by the fire. His small hands trembled as he added wood to boil the first pot of water for the day. The flames reflected on his innocent face, part curiosity, part a quiet fear he couldn't name, as though within the fire he saw both life and the fear of losing it. Have you ever realized that what truly causes human suffering is not loss itself, but the thought that we have lost something? An object falls, a person leaves, a chapter ends, and we call it loss. But if we look deeper, perhaps things are only returning to where they belong. We suffer not because something is gone, but because we still believe it once belonged to us. That morning, a gentle wind passed through the veranda, carrying the scent of smoke and damp earth after a long night. From somewhere, a white feather floated down light as breath gliding through the air before landing near the fire. The little novice's eyes lit up. He picked it up, turning it gently in his palms under the flickering light, so delicate and pure, like a piece of cloud resting in the warm kitchen. But only a moment later, a soft breeze blew. The feather slipped from his fingers, danced briefly in the air, and fell straight into the fire. The boy gasped and reached out to save it, but the heat seared his skin, forcing him to pull back. The feather curled, burned, and turned into a thin wisp of smoke that drifted into the air. He stood, frozen eyes welling with tears, and then burst into sobs. The sound of crying echoed through the quiet kitchen. The old Zen master sitting in the veranda stepped inside. He stood for a moment, neither scolding nor comforting, and asked softly, his voice calm as a breeze, "Why are you crying?" The boy sobbed, tears rolling down his cheeks. "Master, the feather burned. I couldn't save it." The master looked at the fire for a while, then spoke slowly, each word clear like the toll of a bell. "You're afraid because you think the fire killed the feather. But in truth, the fire only returned it to the air." The boy froze. He looked up, watching the slender thread of smoke fade into the wind. A strange feeling arose within him, light yet deep, as if something had quietly opened inside, though he could not name it. He still didn't fully understand, but his tears stopped. The fire kept crackling softly, but this time the boy no longer feared it. He sat still, watching the flames dance, the smoke merge with the sky, seeing everything come and go without truly disappearing. In that flickering light, his fear seemed to dissolve too, like the feather, like the smoke blending into the vastness of space, leaving behind only a quiet peace he had never known before. That simple story carries a profound lesson about loss and return. We often see life as a series of losses, losing things, people, time, youth, or faith. But in the Buddha's teaching, nothing is ever truly lost. It only changes form. What we call loss is simply the natural transformation of all conditioned things. A fallen leaf is not dead. It returns to the earth to nourish the roots. A drop of water that evaporates is not gone. It returns as rain. A person who leaves does not vanish. They return in memory, in the lessons they leave behind in our growth. The Buddha said, "What arises through conditions also ceases through conditions. There is no true birth or death, only transformation." But because we cannot see this flow, we mistake change for ending. And that belief is what gives birth to fear. Fear is the child of attachment. We cling to those we love and fear losing them. We cling to success and fear failure. We cling to the body and fear sickness and death. But ask yourself, what in this life truly belongs to us? This body is borrowed from earth, water, wind, and fire. This breath borrowed from the air. Even this mind is a collection of memories, emotions, and impressions from the world. When everything is borrowed, fear is only the illusion that we can hold on. Modern psychology has found that the pain of loss activates the same part of the brain as physical pain. This means that when we lose someone or something dear, the brain reacts as though our body were wounded. But when we learn to see loss as a form of return, we stop fighting it, and the wound begins to heal. Psychologists call this radical acceptance, not resisting, not denying, not clinging. In Zen, we call it letting go. Letting go is not giving up. It is understanding that everything is moving exactly as it should, even departure. If we are still enough to observe, we will see loss is simply part of the cycle of life. When one season ends, another begins. When a relationship fades, we learn to come home to ourselves. When light disappears here, it shines somewhere else. Nothing truly vanishes. It only changes form, as the master told the boy. The fire didn't kill the feather. It only returned it to the air. That is the essence of Zen wisdom. Every separation is a return to the whole. When we understand this, fear dissolves because we realize we never truly lose anything. Many people live their whole lives in a fog of fear, afraid of losing their jobs, being abandoned, not being enough, or facing tomorrow's uncertainty. They cling to love work, reputation, and belief as if letting go would make everything disappear. But the tighter they grasp, the faster things slip away like sand through the fingers. The harder you squeeze, the quicker it falls. The Buddha taught, letting go does not make you lose it, helps you see what was never lost. When we let go, we don't lose anything. We simply pause long enough to see the truth that nothing belongs to us and nothing truly leaves us. True love is not about holding on. It's about allowing freedom. You can still love someone without needing them to stay. You can still feel gratitude for a past that is closed because it helped shape who you are now. Letting go in the end is the journey home to a place beyond mine and yours. When there are no walls of ownership, fear has nowhere to live. For only when we have nothing to protect do we finally become free. At night, if you ever wake in worry, haunted by memories or what's been lost, listen to your breath. Each exhale is a release, each inhale a return. Imagine sitting before a fire. Let every image that frightens you face its voices. Memories dissolve into its flames. Do not call it an ending. Call it a return. Because like that white feather, whatever has touched your life never truly disappears. It only changes the way it exists in the wind in your breath, in the quiet of your heart. And when night falls and moonlight touches the old roof once again, remember the old Zen master who sat under the moon for many years. When his eyes had grown dim, he smiled and said, "The moonlight never belonged to the eyes." When we understand that we stop mourning what is past, because we see that true light was never in what we saw, but in the clarity within. When the mind stops holding fear, has nowhere to cling. And in that moment, you will see the most wondrous truth. Nothing is ever truly lost. There is only return, soft as smoke, warm as fire, and pure as moonlight at the end of night. The full moon hung quietly in the night sky, its light resting upon the still lake before the Zen monastery. The sound of crickets blended softly with the gentle murmur of water under the veranda, forming a delicate melody of earth and sky. In that profound silence sat an old Zen master, hands resting on his knees, face turned toward the moonlight, his eyes clouded with age. People often say that light exists so we can see. But if one day we lose our eyes, does the light truly disappear? It sounds like a philosophical question, yet it touches the very heart of human life. Because who among us does not fear loss? The loss of youth, of loved ones, of honor, of ability, or the light within ourselves. But have you ever wondered, do we truly lose, or do things simply return to where they belong? We suffer not because of loss itself, but because we believe we have lost, because we believe the world around us is ours. Zen teaches nothing is ever truly ours. Everything simply passes through us, like moonlight passing over the surface of a lake. Long ago, in a monastery deep within a mountain valley, there lived a master named Jorin. He lived in seclusion, quiet as a stream flowing beneath the cliffs, seeking neither fame nor followers, tending only to a small garden of white night-blooming orchids that opened under the moon. Each evening, their fragrance drifted through the courtyard, soft as mist, pure as moonlight. After the evening bell, Master Jorin would sit beneath an old pine tree facing the still lake before the monastery. He would gaze at the moon's reflection on the water, silent smiling as if conversing with something invisible. When asked why he never tired of watching the moon night after night, he would gently reply, "The moon reminds me that there are things we cannot hold, only reflect." Years passed. His hair turned white, his back bent with time, but his nightly habit remained. Through rain and mist alike, he would still sit by the lake, hands on his knees, eyes lifted toward the glow on the water's surface. Then, one day, old age dimmed his sight. The light began to blur. The moon's image dissolved before his eyes like autumn mist fading at dawn. His disciples, worried, searched for healers, gathered herbs, brewed remedies day and night, but nothing changed. One early autumn morning, before the sun rose fully over the mountain, Master Joran stepped into the garden and stumbled slightly over a tree root. He paused and smiled. He knew he could no longer see the path clearly. That night, the moon was the brightest of the year. Its gentle light filled the courtyard, poured into the veranda, and shone on every orchid blooming white beneath its glow. The disciples gathered around him, hearts heavy. One whispered voice trembling, "Master, you can no longer see the moon." How sad. Master Joran was silent for a moment, then smiled a smile soft as wind brushing pine needles. "The moon," he said, "has never belonged to the eyes." The courtyard fell silent. Even the insects stopped singing and the wind seemed to hold its breath. The moonlight still shone, but no longer through his blind eyes. It now radiated from somewhere deeper, quiet, boundless, and beyond loss. In that darkness, he no longer needed sight to see the moon, because his mind had become the very sky where the moon never fades. The moon has never belonged to the eyes. That single sentence captures the essence of non-self, anatta, and impermanence, anicca. As long as we believe there is a self that owns, we will fear losing what we think is ours. But when we see clearly that nothing truly belongs to me, fear dissolves. Everything is part of the natural flow, coming and going, not from us, not lost within us. Just like the moon, whether we see it or not, it still shines. Just like happiness, it doesn't depend on what we have, but on how we see. The Buddha taught suffering arises from clinging to the self. When one sees the truth of non-self, suffering ends. Non-self does not mean denying our existence. It means understanding that everything we call I is a temporary union of earth, water, wind, fire, memory, emotion, and conditions. When we realize this, we live more lightly, love more deeply, and no longer fear loss. Master Joran lost his eyes, but not the light, for he had seen that true light does not dwell in the eyes, but in the awakened mind. In modern life, the fear of loss governs nearly every human choice. We fear losing our jobs, our reputation, others' approval, our youth, or our solitude. Yet this fear is merely the reflection of an illusion, the illusion of ownership. A study from Harvard once revealed, the fear of loss has twice the psychological impact as the joy of gain. We feel pain when we lose what we love, not because of the loss itself, but because we have identified ourselves with it. When someone we love leaves, we feel incomplete. When we fail, we feel worthless. But through the eyes of Zen, Every loss is simply a return to the truth of impermanence. Letting go is not coldness or indifference. Letting go means to love without grasping, to hold without binding. For love does not disappear when ownership ends. It becomes purer, deeper, freer. When we understand non-self, we continue to work, love, and live, but without fear's chains. That is the freedom of the heart. Before sleeping tonight, try a simple practice. Sit still. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Imagine the moonlight touching your face, soft, clear, unbound. With each exhale, release work, release worries, release even the thought, this is mine. With each inhale, return to your natural clarity. You will realize you don't need eyes to see the light, because that light isn't outside, it lives within the peaceful mind. When the mind releases, the body softens. When the body softens, sleep arrives gently like a breath. And even in dreams, you will see the moon still shining, not from the sky, but from within your own heart. When we no longer cling to what has gone, we realize the light has never left us. It has only changed form from the moon above to the radiance within. From here, the journey of letting go deepens, not only releasing the fear of loss, but learning to accept endings before they arrive. The next story tells of a traveling monk who carried a precious bowl, so afraid of breaking it that he never used it. Until one day, he met Master Ryuto, who said, "If the bowl has already broken in your mind, you will no longer fear when it breaks in the world." That is the story to come, where we learn that peace begins only when we stop fearing the inevitable. One early autumn morning, white clouds drifted slowly over the pines. The temple bell rang out across the still valley. Sunlight fell softly on the moss-covered stone steps, where a traveler was climbing, holding a silk-wrapped bundle in his arms. He was once a wealthy merchant, now wandering from place to place, seeking a teacher of the way. Inside his bundle was a precious antique bowl, a family heirloom passed down through generations, believed to bring good fortune. Yet instead of joy, his life was filled with fear, the fear that the bowl might break. Isn't that just like us? Whenever we possess something precious, a person, an achievement, a fortune, we begin to fear losing it. We hold on tightly, protect it with all our might. But the tighter we hold, the more exhausted we become. The more we value it, the more we worry. The more we worry, the less peace we have. A simple yet profound question arises. How can we live without fearing the loss of what we love? And this story begins with that very human fear, the kind that only disappears when we learn to accept endings before they arrive. The merchant never let the bowl leave his side. He carried it through mountains and rivers, through inns and villages, clutching it close as if it were his very soul. The antique had been passed down for centuries, a symbol of prosperity and blessing. But along with its value came a deep anxiety, fear that it might chip, crack, or worst of all, shatter. When he heard of Master Ryuto, a Zen teacher known as the one who sees through the human heart, the merchant decided to seek him out. He hoped the master could teach him how to keep his treasure safe forever. At the monastery, he bowed deeply in respect. Master Ryuto sat quietly in the veranda, morning light casting a tranquil glow across his face. Seeing the guest still clutching the bowl, the master asked gently, "What is it that you carry?" The merchant replied, his tone both proud and anxious. "Master, it is a priceless heirloom of my family. I bring it everywhere, afraid someone might break it. It is more precious than anything I own." The master smiled faintly. "And what do you use it for?" The merchant hesitated, looking down at the bundle in his hands. "I haven't dared to use it. I'm afraid it will be damaged, scratched, or broken." The master said nothing. After a while, he rose and walked toward the garden behind the temple, where a pond of lotus flowers bloomed in the still water, reflecting clouds and pine branches above. He gestured for the merchant to follow. "Place your bowl on the ground," the master said. The merchant froze, tightening his grip. "But master, the ground is hard. If it falls, it will break." Master Ryuto looked at him calmly and said, "Then let it break." Those 4 words struck the merchant like thunder. Never in his life had anyone spoken to him in such a way, gentle yet cutting straight through his heart. He looked at the master, whose eyes remained as serene as the unmoving surface of the pond. After a long moment, the merchant's hands trembled as he unwrapped the silk cloth layer by layer. His palms were heavy, his heart pounding. He placed the bowl on the ground carefully, as if even his breath might harm it. The master bent down, picked up a small stone, and tapped it lightly against the bowl. A clear, resonant sound rang out, pure and bright, echoing through the still air like the morning bell. "Do you hear that?" the master asked. "Yes, master," the man replied softly. "That is the sound of impermanence. When you fear the sound of something breaking, you forget that without it, life could not continue." The merchant stood silent. A light breeze rippled the surface of the pond. A lotus petal fell, brushing the bowl, but leaving it unmarked. Yet within him, something had cracked quietly, deeply beyond words. The master continued, his voice calm and warm. "If the bowl has already broken in your mind, you will no longer fear when it breaks in the world." The merchant bowed his head. Tears fell not from fear, but from understanding. His fear had never lived in the bowl. It had lived in his desire to keep forever what could never be kept. Across the pond, the lotus flowers swayed gently in the breeze. Sunlight shimmered on the water like thousands of broken shards of glass, yet it was breathtakingly beautiful. And in that moment, he understood only by accepting that everything can break. Do we begin to truly live? Master Ryuto's words embody the essence of impermanence and letting go, 2 pillars of Buddhist wisdom. Why do we fear loss? Because we forget that everything is already changing. What we cling to has never been still, not for a single second. That bowl, even unbroken, is already on its way to breaking, just as our bodies are on their way to aging flowers, to falling and day to night. Instead of flowing with this truth, we resist it, and in that resistance, fear is born. The Buddha taught one who sees impermanence clearly no longer fears, for they know that nothing is ever lost, only transformed. Zen does not teach us to abandon things, but to accept them even before they are gone. When something has already broken in our mind, meaning we understand its impermanent nature, Then, when it actually breaks, we no longer suffer. Just as when night comes, we no longer mourn the day. When autumn arrives, we do not cling to spring. Those who accept the cycle of life no longer ache with each change. In our lives, each of us carries our own bowl. Some carry reputation, fearing they'll be forgotten. Some carry love, fearing abandonment. Some carry success, fearing failure. But all are the same, holding something precious, yet never daring to put it down. The fear of loss steals away the joy of living. We hesitate to love deeply for fear of being hurt. We avoid trying for fear of failing. We suppress our truth for fear of being judged. Yet when we accept that everything can break, the heart suddenly feels light. Peace doesn't come from preservation. It comes from the absence of fear. Psychologists call this radical acceptance. The complete acceptance of reality as it is. Not escaping, not denying, not resisting. When we face reality as it is, the nervous system naturally calms, and the energy of fear begins to dissolve. Like the merchant in the story, once the bowl had broken in his mind, he no longer feared the sound of impermanence. He began using the bowl to drink tea, to receive food to share with others. From that moment, the bowl was no longer a burden, but a vessel for life. If today you are holding a bowl in your heart, perhaps a relationship, a memory, or an old dream, try to look at it with a meditative mind. Before sleeping, close your eyes and take a deep breath. Then exhale and imagine gently placing the bowl down, not throwing it away, simply setting it down. Feel your heart empty, yet not lonely, for in that emptiness, peace has room to bloom. The mind is like water. When it is free of the waves of worry, the moon of wisdom can reflect clearly. Let yourself rest in acceptance. There is nothing to hold, nothing to fight. Just breathe, and remember, everything you are trying to protect will in time return to where it belongs. Letting go is not loss, it is allowing things to be what they truly are. When we learn to let things break in our hearts, peace arises naturally. Freed from the fear of the inevitable, we begin to see the truth of life itself, that all phenomena are but the movements of one boundless reality. From the empty bowl, the next story carries us to the ocean, where a trembling wave asked Master Kayan, "Why can I not find peace? I'm afraid of disappearing." And the master simply smiled, "Because you've forgotten you are water." That is the next story, where we discover that fear exists only when we forget our true nature, boundless life itself. The morning wind swept across the mountains, carrying with it the faint salt of the distant sea. From the roof of an ancient temple perched on the cliff, the vast ocean stretched endlessly under the first light of dawn. Wave after wave rose and fell, surged forward and receded like the breathing of the earth and sky. A young novice stood silently gazing at the sea, a vague fear stirring in his chest. He turned to the old monk sweeping the courtyard and asked softly, "Master, the waves will disappear someday, won't they?" The master replied, his voice light as the wind, The waves only disappear when they forget they are water. The answer left the novice deep in thought. And perhaps that is the question within each of us. When life rises like a wave, we fear being swallowed by it. When we suffer, we believe we are about to be lost. But if our true nature never disappears, what is there to fear? Like the waves, we have only forgotten that we are water. All fear, pain, and confusion begin with that forgetting. Long ago, in a monastery near the Eastern Sea, there lived a Zen master named Kayan. He lived simply spending his days meditating with his disciples by the shore, silently watching the waves. For him, the sea was more than water and wind. It was an immense Dharma hall, where each wave was a teaching on impermanence, arising and fading, and the true nature of mind. One morning, the sea grew wild. Massive waves struck the rocks, sending sprays of white foam high into the air. Amidst the roar, a young disciple sat beside the master, eyes fixed on the restless ocean. Fear and confusion were written across his face. He spoke hesitantly, his voice trembling against the wind. "Master, I feel like those waves. The stronger I become, the more I fear I'll break apart. I'm afraid of disappearing." Master Kayan did not answer immediately. He continued to watch the sea where waves collided and vanished, leaving only white foam drifting on the surface. After a while, he said gently, "Look closely. Waves have form, but water has none. When the wave dissolves, the water remains. You are afraid because you think you are the wave, not knowing you are the water." The disciple fell silent. Sunlight shimmered on the ocean's surface as waves rose, broke, and rose again, the long, eternal breath of the sea without beginning or end. The master continued, "When you realize you are water, you will see that nothing is ever truly lost. Each time you dissolve, you are simply returning home." A strong gust blew, scattering fine drops of seawater into the air. The master reached out and caught one in his palm. It sparkled in the sunlight, tiny yet radiant. He smiled. "See, this drop has not died. It has only changed form." The disciple bowed his head. Tears blending with the wind and the salt of the sea, warm, stinging, and alive. Amid the crashing waves, he understood what no words could explain, that his fear did not come from the sea, nor from the waves themselves, but from forgetting that he was water, formless, unbroken, beyond birth and death. From that day on, every morning when he gazed at the sea, he no longer feared the crashing waves. He only saw water dancing in the wind, just as his own heart returned to boundless stillness. This story speaks of humanity's deepest fear, the fear of vanishing, the fear of losing the sense of I. It is the root of all suffering and attachment. When we believe we are the wave, we live in anxiety, worried about being broken, criticized, or changed by life. But when we know we are the water, inseparable from life itself, we see that nothing is ever truly lost. The Buddha taught all phenomena are like illusions. Arising and ceasing are only appearances, their essence is unmoving. In the Dharma, this is the wisdom of non-self and oneness. Non-self because there is no separate me. Oneness because everything is part of the same whole. When we forget our true nature, the mind begins to divide. This is me, that is you. This is success, that is failure. This is life that is death. And from this division, fear is born. But when we realize we are water, the infinite stream of life, then death is only a wave returning to the ocean. In modern life, we too are like waves, constantly moving, constantly trying to prove our existence. We surge forward, collide with others, and fear dissolving. Our waves take the form of work, ambition, relationships, and expectations. We believe that when the wave disappears, so do we. But in truth, each time we break, we return to a deeper part of ourselves. Some people only discover truth after losing everything. Only when swept away from the shore do they realize they were never outside the sea. In psychology, this is called ego dissolution, the dissolving of the self-image we cling to. When a person no longer identifies with that image, they begin to touch natural peace. It is the same in meditation, only when we stop trying to sit perfectly, stop forcing stillness, does stillness truly appear. Look closely at the moments when you feel the greatest fear, failure, illness, separation, aging. We think we are disappearing. But in truth, these are just waves reminding us that we have never left the ocean. At night, when the mind begins to stir, worries, regrets, and memories rise like tides. To rest peacefully, you cannot force the waves to stop. You can only return to being water. Before sleep, sit quietly for a moment. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Feel your breath like the waves coming and going. Don't try to control it. Just watch as if standing on the shore watching the sea. With each exhale, whisper silently, "I am water." No resistance, no grasping. Let the mind dissolve into the breath like a wave melting into the ocean. After a while, your body will feel lighter, your breath deeper, your mind clear like the still surface of calm water. That is meditation in sleep, not the stopping of thoughts, but the recognition that all thoughts are waves and you are water. When you remember you are water, fear dissolves like foam on the sea. There is nothing to lose, because nothing ever leaves you. Death, pain, and loss are simply the breathing of the ocean of life. And just as the moon's reflection vanishes when the wind stirs the surface, its light never truly disappears. The next story speaks of this truth. A Zen master once lit a candle during a storm. When the wind blew it out, his disciple asked, "Master, are you not afraid of the dark?" The master replied, "The light is not gone. It's only resting." That is the next story. The candle and the wind, where we learn that death, loss, and darkness are nothing more than the pauses of light. Night fell, and the wind from the mountains swept down, whistling through the old pine trees like the breath of the earth. Inside a small meditation hut on the hillside, the light of a single candle flickered on the wooden table, casting trembling shadows on the walls. Have you ever been afraid of the dark? Not the darkness outside, but the darkness within. When we lose someone we love, when a door closes, or when faith begins to waver, we often find ourselves standing in a night without light. In those moments, we wish someone would hold a candle for us so we wouldn't have to tremble alone. But if that light suddenly goes out, can we still be at peace? Or will we panic, search frantically, become angry, or despair? Our fear of darkness exists because we forget light never truly disappears. It only rests within us. And sometimes darkness doesn't come to threaten us, but to remind us that we too have always been light. One winter night, fierce winds surrounded a mountain monastery. A sudden storm swept in. Black clouds swallowed the sky. Thunder rumbled like the beating of heaven's drums, and rain pounded the roof like the heartbeat of the earth. Inside a small meditation room, a flickering candle still burned in the corner. An old Zen master sat calmly before it, unmoved by the roaring wind outside. A young disciple rushed in, shielding his face from the gusts his robe soaked through. "Master," he said nervously, "why don't you blow out the candle? The wind is too strong. It will go out soon." The master smiled. The faint light of the flame reflected in his eyes like two stars shining through the storm. He said softly, "Let it burn. If it goes out, that too is part of the wind." Moments later, as the student feared, a strong gust swept through. The flame quivered, shrank, and went out. Darkness filled the room. The wind outside howled louder, swallowing every other sound. The student gasped. "Master, the candle's out. It's too dark. I can't see anything." The master remained still. His calm voice rose within the darkness, slow and steady. "The light is not gone, my child. It's only resting, but I can't see anything except darkness," the disciple said, his voice trembling with despair. "Yes," the master replied, "because you are still looking with your eyes. When the outer light rests, you must learn to see with the inner one." The room remained dark, yet something within the disciple began to quiet. The sound of wind, rain, and leaves striking the roof slowly blended into one soft rhythm, a still melody. He realized the darkness was no longer frightening. It was simply there, surrounding him, but not harming him. And within it, another kind of light began to glow, not from the candle, not from the moon, but from deep within his own heart. The master's voice was soft as the wind, yet stronger than thunder. "Do you see? When the outer light fades, we finally have the chance to find the light within. Without darkness, who among us would ever look into our own heart?" Outside, the storm continued to howl, but inside that room, another lamp had been lit, not with wax and flame, but with awareness. This story is not merely about a candle. It is a metaphor for life, death, and faith. The light represents life, wisdom, and hope. The wind symbolizes change, impermanence, and everything beyond our control. When the wind blows out the candle, it is like facing loss, fear, or death. Most of us only feel safe while the light still burns, when we have someone beside us, when everything feels secure, when life is stable. But when the wind rises, when what we cling to is swept away, fear takes over the mind. The Buddha taught all phenomena arise from causes and conditions. When those conditions cease, forms change, but their true essence is neither born nor destroyed. The candle goes out, but the flame does not die. It merely transforms into warmth in the air, light and memory energy carried by the wind. So too, with human life, the body may vanish, but consciousness, karma, and love continue to flow in the boundless current of existence. Death, loss, and darkness are not endings. They are pauses in the rhythm of life, not conclusions, but moments for life to breathe, for the heart to return home. Faith, therefore, is not clinging to light, but daring to trust even when all seems dark. It is the highest form of letting go, releasing the need to see in order to truly perceive. In our own lives, how many times have we panicked when the candle within us went out? When we lost a loved one, a job, a relationship, or a dream we once thought defined us. In those moments, it feels as if the darkness will never end. But if we become still enough, we begin to notice darkness also breathes. It arrives, stays for a while, and then departs, like night and day, like inhaling and exhaling, like life and death. Modern psychology calls this the emotional regulation cycle, the natural process by which humans heal from loss. If we allow the mind space to rest like a candle allowed to go out, the nervous system will find balance on its own. But if we resist the darkness, we trap ourselves in endless tension. In meditation, we do not try to keep the light burning. We simply learn to sit quietly when the candle goes out. Because true light is not in the candle, it is in awareness itself. You can practice this in daily life. When facing loss, pause. Close your eyes and whisper inwardly. The light is not gone. It's only resting. That single sentence, if you truly feel it, can calm your whole being. It awakens the wisdom that nothing truly leaves it, only changes form. When night falls, many fear the stillness, because in stillness, they can finally hear their own heart. But that is when meditation truly begins. Before sleep, sit quietly in a darkened room. No candle, no music, only your breath, soft and steady, like wind passing through an open window. Each breath is a candle within the heart. When the wind of thoughts arises, do not resist. Let it blow out the flame and let your mind sink into the gentle darkness. Soon, you will see in that darkness another kind of light appears, not from your eyes, but from your heart. It is the light that never goes out, the light of faith, of life, of awareness. When you fall asleep in that state, sleep becomes meditation, and dreams become the universe's whisper. You are being held, even when you cannot see. And when dawn comes, the outer light returns. But you are no longer the same, for in the night that passed, you have found the true flame. Fear fades only when we understand that even in darkness, we are still surrounded by light. Courage does not come from keeping the candle lit, but from knowing that even when it goes out, we are the light. From here, the journey continues, no longer a battle between light and dark, but a harmony of both. Just like the disciple in the next story standing before a fragile bridge over a deep ravine, trembling with fear to cross. Master Anson said to him, "Do not think the bridge carries you. Step as though you are the earth itself." That is the bridge of fear, where we learn that true courage is not in holding on, but in becoming one with what is. Have you ever stood before something you needed to cross, but your legs trembled and refused to move? Not because the path was too long, but because the abyss inside you was too deep. Sometimes fear doesn't come from the bridge in front of us, but from the belief that if we take a wrong step, no one will be there to catch us. We forget the earth and sky have been holding us long before we ever learn to walk. There are bridges in life real close that we still don't dare to cross. An old relationship, a new job, an open door we only dare to look at, not step through. Fear begins the moment we believe we are alone in this vast universe. But perhaps only when we dare to step forward, we discover there is no real abyss except the one in our mind. That morning, mist covered the eastern mountains so thickly that the sky itself seemed to dissolve into a pale gray haze. The mountain wind blew cold, carrying the rustle of pine leaves. A narrow wooden bridge stretched over a deep ravine, connecting a stony path to a Zen monastery halfway up the mountain. Below, a stream rushed fiercely through the gorge, the sound of water striking stone echoing like the voice of eternity. Each time the wind blew, the bridge creaked softly, like time itself sighing. A young monk named Taro stopped before the bridge. He looked down into the mist-filled valley where clouds and fog blended so completely that one could not tell rock from water. His hands clenched, his breath quickened, his feet felt nailed to the ground. Behind him, Master Anson, an old Zen monk with silver hair and an ash-colored robe, stood silently observing. After a moment, the master spoke, his voice, calm but clear against the wind. "What is it that you fear?" Taro answered without taking his eyes off the bridge. "I fear the bridge isn't strong enough. If the wind grows stronger, I'll fall into the ravine." The master smiled and stepped a little closer. "Do you think the bridge is what's holding you up?" Taro looked up puzzled. "Isn't it, master?" "No, Taro," the master said gently. "It's the earth that holds you, not the bridge." Taro stared at him confused, then back at the bridge. Master Anson slowly walked to the middle of it. The wind tugged at his robe like wings in the mist. He turned and asked, "Look closely." "What do you see?" "I see you, standing in midair," Taro replied. "That's right," the master smiled. "And even in this emptiness I am still supported." He sat down on the damp wooden planks, placing his hands on the cool surface, his eyes soft as autumn water. The bridge doesn't keep us from falling. It's only the form of earth wind and human hands, all part of the same universe. Taro swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "But master, what if the bridge breaks?" The master looked into his eyes, his tone slow and steady, like wind passing through leaves. "When the bridge breaks, the earth remains. And if you are one with the earth, there is nowhere to fall." Silence followed, only the wind through the ravine, the roar of water against stone, and Taro's heavy breath. Then the master whispered, his voice blending with the sound of the mountains. "Walk as though you are the earth. You are not crossing the bridge, the earth is walking upon itself." Taro closed his eyes. He could hear his heartbeat blending with the wind, the creak of the bridge merging with his breath. He stepped forward. Each step was a test of trust, but gradually fear dissolved, replaced by something vast and calm, as though the wind itself was carrying him. When he reached the other side, Taro turned back. The bridge was the same, the ravine still deep, the wind still blowing, but something within him had changed. He was no longer someone crossing fear, but one who had become part of the earth, the wind, and the breath of life itself. From the far side, Master Anson smiled gently. "You see," he said, "when the mind is not separate, the universe carries you as lightly as breath." The story of the bridge is not just about overcoming fear, it is a lesson on non-self and deep trust in life itself. Human beings always want to hold on to something, to someone, to a belief. We fear letting go, believing that if we release our grip, we will fall. Yet the paradox is this: it is only by holding too tightly that we lose balance. The Buddha taught that all things arise through interdependence. There is no I walking across the bridge. There is only the act of walking, where body, earth, wind, and mind move as one. Fear arises the moment we forget this oneness. When the mind believes it is separate, the bridge becomes something outside, the ravine becomes a threat, and the wind becomes an enemy. But in the reality of mindfulness, everything is part of one continuous flow. No one lifting, no one being lifted. Zen does not teach us to find a safe place to stand, but to realize we can never truly fall. Because once we are one with life, we are the flow itself. Taro was afraid because he thought the bridge was his support. But when awareness awakened, he saw the earth, the wind, the bridge, and himself were all breathing together in the same rhythm of life. That is the spirit of Zen: non-separation, non-grasping, and freedom from fear. In daily life, we too stand on countless bridges. A major decision, a new beginning, a word we long to speak but hesitate to say. We worry, what if I make a mistake? But in truth, no step is ever wrong if we step with a steady heart. For the earth still holds us, even when we fall. Modern science calls this the body-ground integration effect. When humans feel connected to their surroundings, the nervous system calms the heartbeat, steadies, and the brain returns to a state of safety. That's why in walking meditation, monks walk slowly, feeling each foot touch the earth, to remember that we never need to be lifted because we are always supported. If your mind is filled with the thought, "I must stand on my own," fear will never leave. But when you realize, "I am part of the earth," fear melts away, replaced by a quiet trust, not in words, but in every breath. Letting go does not mean losing control. Letting go is returning to the natural rhythm of the universe, where everything supports everything else without effort. At night, your mind is often like standing on a narrow bridge. On one side, worry. On the other, peace. You want to step toward peace, but you fear falling into the ravine of restless thoughts. Remember Taro's lesson. Before sleep, instead of forcing your thoughts to stop, imagine yourself standing on that bridge. The wind still blows, but you no longer need to hold the railing. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel your body as part of the earth, no longer separate. Each breath is a step, each step a merging with all things. Gradually, you'll realize there is no other side to reach. There is only life breathing through you. Then sleep will come lightly, like the wind itself. not because all fear has vanished, but because you've merged with something greater than fear, an unshakable trust in life. Courage does not come from holding tight, but from becoming one. It is not the bridge that holds us, but the earth, the universe, the whole carrying us in every step. And when we live in that awareness, even the fear of death becomes as light as a passing breeze. One autumn evening before his passing, an old Zen master smiled and said to his disciple, "Do not fear when the light goes out, for even ashes know how to shine in their own way." That is the next story. The Monk and the Fading Flame. Where we learn that death is not an end, but a transformation, like the flame which, though extinguished, leaves warmth lingering in the air. An autumn afternoon, the sun descended behind the mountains, and its last rays touched the moss-covered roofs of the ancient temple, warm yet tinged with sorrow. In the courtyard, golden leaves drifted down, like the earth's quiet farewell to the sky. Have you ever wondered what truly makes people fear death? Perhaps it is not only the fear of losing life, but the fear of losing the self, the part we call me. We fear dissolving, falling into emptiness, not being remembered. But maybe what we fear most is not death itself, but the mystery of what follows. Like a candle about to burn out, we grieve for the fading light, forgetting that the warmth still lingers in the air. Death through the eyes of Zen is not an ending, but a subtle transformation. And on one such afternoon, a Zen master once taught this truth to his disciples in the most gentle, beautiful, and profound way. In a small mountain temple lived an old Zen master named Shunyo. He lived simply like an oil lamp burning in the wind, quiet, steady, yet bright enough to illuminate the vast stillness of the forest. Each morning, when mist hung over the roof like a silken veil, he brewed tea, chanted sutras, then sat silently watching the sun rise, its light touching the tips of the leaves before dissolving into space. To him, every morning was a meditation on continuation. No 2 days were ever the same, yet each shone with its own still brilliance. That year, his health began to fade. His steps slowed, his breath grew heavier, but his smile remained luminous. The disciples worried and urged him to rest. He only smiled kindly and said in a voice soft as dew, "This body is like a candle, it burns as long as the wind allows. When the wax is gone, I will simply light it again with another flame." On the day his breath grew shorter than usual, the monastery was quieter than ever. The disciples sat around him in silence. Only the sound of the wind passing through old bamboo leaves filled the courtyard. On the table, an oil lamp flickered its flame, trembling thin as the master's own breath. A young disciple, eyes glistening, asked in a trembling voice, "Master, if this lamp goes out, will the light disappear?" Master Shunyo gazed at the flame. His voice was calm, resonant, warm as the wind itself. "No, my child. Light does not die, it only changes form. Even ashes know how to shine in their own way. But if there's no light left, how will we find our way?" The disciple asked, voice breaking. The master smiled, placing a hand over his heart. "When you look with these eyes, the outer light may fade, But when you look with your heart, it will remain forever. Light does not live in the candle. It lives in the mind that knows how to see. Then he closed his eyes. The lamp on the table went out at the very same moment his final breath dissolved into the wind. No one cried. Only the faint rustle of wind through the window carrying a thin line of incense smoke that drifted upward soft as silk, as if even heaven was bowing down. The next morning, when the first rays of sunlight entered the meditation hall, something extraordinary appeared on the table. The candle's ashes glowed faintly gold, shimmering like stardust. No one spoke. They simply watched and understood. The master had never left. The light had never gone out. It had merely moved from the candle into their hearts, where his flame would burn gently and eternally. In Buddhism, death is never seen as an ending. It is merely another form of life. Just like a candle, when it finishes burning, its flame doesn't vanish. It merges with the air, becomes warmth, becomes the light of dawn, becomes part of the universe. The Buddha taught, there is no birth, no death, only the transformation of causes and conditions. What makes humans fear death is not death itself, but our attachment to the form of life. We identify ourselves with our bodies, our names, our roles, our memories, and when these leave us, we think we have lost everything, but our true nature has never been destroyed. Like water in a river, when it evaporates, it is not lost. It simply transforms into clouds, into rain, and returns once again to the earth. Life too is like that, ever transforming, never ceasing. From the eyes of Zen, death is not a final moment. It is an opening, a doorway, a moment where both the one who departs and the one who remains learn about impermanence, letting go, and unconditional love. In daily life, we often fear small deaths, not only the death of the body, but the death of habits, of a phase in life, of a relationship. We call it loss. But in truth, loss is simply the universe's way of helping us grow. If nothing changed, flowers would never fall, seeds would never sprout, and we would never learn how to love more deeply. In modern psychology, the process of accepting death is called ego transcendence. When one stops resisting impermanence, an extraordinary peace arises because one no longer lives to hold on, but to give. That is also the essence of Zen, to hold nothing, to demand nothing, to live fully with each breath, knowing everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Death does not teach fear, it teaches deeper love. When we realize that everything can disappear, we cherish each shared moment, each laugh, each drop of sunlight falling on the roof. Before sleep, you can practice a simple meditation that Master Shunyo once taught his students. Sit quietly in the dark, close your eyes, take a deep breath in and exhale slowly. Imagine a candle burning within your heart. With each exhale, a gentle breeze touches it and the flame flickers, but does not go out. As you let go of all worries, the flame slowly softens until it dissolves into warmth within your chest. Do not fear that moment. That is when the light returns to its source, no longer confined to a candle, but spreading through all space. Feel every cell of your body glow softly, then drift into sleep. That sleep is not a loss, but a rest, a small death that allows you to be reborn each morning. If you can fall asleep with such surrender, you are learning to die peacefully each day. And by doing so, you will learn to live more completely. The flame may go out, but the light never disappears. Just like Master Shunyo, though, his body returned to dust, his wisdom and compassion remain in every breeze, every grain of dust, and in every heart he ever illuminated. When we understand this, death is no longer an enemy, but a silent teacher, showing us how to live, how to love, and how to let go. And as with everything in life, after one flame fades, new seeds quietly begin to bloom. In the next story, we will see that even when flowers fall, the earth still brings forth new life. For every parting is simply a natural turn of the circle of being, and only when we release the urge to hold can we finally learn to love fully. Early summer morning dew still clung to the petals in the temple garden. The scent of flowers drifted lightly in the air like a soft whisper from the earth and sky, and yet just one strong gust of wind could scatter all that beauty away. Have you ever felt pain over something that has left a person a memory, or a moment so beautiful you didn't want it to end? We often believe we love deeply, but beneath that love lies the fear of loss. We don't just love, we want to hold on. But when has life ever allowed us to keep anything forever? Even the most beautiful blossom, when it fully blooms, is already beginning its journey back to the earth. Only when we understand this can we truly love without holding care, without claiming. That afternoon, the wind rose suddenly fierce and unrestrained, as if the sky itself had something to say. A storm swept in from the sea, roaring over the mountains through the old pines across the lotus pond and past the moss-covered stones in the temple courtyard. Leaves swirled, rain lashed the eaves, and the newly blossomed cherry petals were torn from their branches, spiraling through the air, carpeting the narrow stone path leading to the meditation garden. By morning, the world had grown quiet again. The clouds had drifted away, the mist had thinned, and only the faint scent of flowers lingered in the damp air. Everywhere on the ground lay pale pink petals, wilted yet soft, their fragile beauty, like the trace of a fading dream. A young novice stepped into the courtyard, a bamboo broom in his hand. He swept each corner, each stone step, his eyes red. Every sweep of the broom sounded like a sob. Tears fell as he whispered, "Master, all the flowers are gone. I watered them, I sheltered them, but the wind still took everything away." Master Tenzu stood under the eaves holding a cup of hot tea, quietly watching the garden. Steam rose from the cup like the last breath of the passing storm. The morning sun caught the torn petals on the grass, making them glimmer like shards of light. The master asked softly, his voice light as the breeze, "Are you crying because the flowers fell, or because you thought the flowers belonged to you?" The novice looked up, confused, his voice small. I just feel sad. They were so beautiful." The master smiled gently, set down his cup, and stepped into the garden. He bent down, picked up a petal still wet with dew and placed it in the boy's palm. See, the wind didn't harm the flowers. It only helped them return to the earth where they came from. He pointed to the damp soil beneath their feet, where the petals were beginning to melt into the ground, soft as a breath. In time, they'll dissolve, nourishing the roots, and when spring comes again, new blossoms will bloom. You only saw the storm taking the flowers away, but you didn't see the flowers finding their way home. The novice fell silent. His eyes were still wet, but his heart had softened. He looked around the garden, where fallen petals now glowed gently in the morning light, and for the first time, he didn't feel loss. Among the withered flowers, he realized something quiet and profound. Nothing truly disappears. Everything transforms, continues, and returns. A gentle breeze moved through, carrying the scent of soil, of flowers, and of the earth's long sigh. Standing beside him, Master Tenzu murmured, "When you understand that everything is returning home, you'll stop fearing loss. Because in the circle of impermanence, nothing ever truly falls away. And there, amid a garden of fallen petals, life continued softly, beautifully, and completely, like the breath of the earth itself." That story wasn't just about flowers, it was about everything we've ever loved. In Buddhist teaching, all things move within the law of dependent origination. They arise, flourish, fade, and are reborn in new forms. Nothing truly vanishes. It merely changes role, position, or shape. When we cling to a particular form, that person, that relationship, that moment, we resist the natural rhythm of the universe. We try to hold still a passing moment, to capture the wind in our hands. But as the Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. What is born must one day cease. No storm comes to destroy. It comes to remind us that life is always in motion. If there were no wind, the flowers would never fall. If the flowers never fell, the earth would not be nourished. And without nourished earth, there would be no blossoms in the next spring. So loss is not an ending. It is the heartbeat of continuation. In life, we are much like that young novice we care for. Something deeply, we love it. And then one day, the storm of life arrives and takes it all away. Someone leaves. A dream breaks. A beautiful time never returns. We grieve, we blame, we think life is unfair. But in truth, the wind is only doing its work, returning what has completed its course back to its origin. Even modern science says the same in nature. Nothing is lost, only transformed. Fallen petals become nourishment. Falling tears cleanse the heart. Every ending clears the way for a new beginning. If we can see deeply, we'll realize letting go is not losing, but returning. When we give back to life what belongs to life, we also set ourselves free. True love doesn't mean holding forever. It means allowing everything to return to where it belongs. Those who understand this no longer fear the wind, no longer fear loss, no longer cry over fallen flowers. They simply smile, grateful for having once seen them bloom. When night falls, your mind is like the garden after the storm, quiet, damp, still holding the remnants of the day. Instead of pushing away memories or worries, let them fall like petals gently without resistance. Sit quietly, Take a slow, deep breath. Exhale and imagine sweeping the temple courtyard after the wind. Each breath is a sweep of the broom clearing dust from the mind. You don't need to make it spotless. Just let everything return to where it belongs. Then lie down, release the body like a petal, sinking back into the earth. You'll see beneath the soil of exhaustion, a new seed of life is waiting. Sleep, when entered with such surrender, is not time lost. It is the earth within you being restored. And each morning when the first light touches your skin, you'll feel yourself blooming again. Like a flower after the storm. Flowers do not fall because the wind is cruel. They fall because it is time to return to the earth. People part not because love has ended, but because each soul must find its own path home. When you understand this, the heart becomes lighter. You no longer cling, no longer fear loss. You simply cherish each moment as it is. In that fullness, love becomes pure, no longer colored by possession, but transformed into gratitude. And from that gratitude, another door opens, the door of freedom. Like the next story about a small bird that had healed its wings, but was too afraid to leave the master's hand, fearing the fall. But Master Ryumen said to it, "If you never fall, you will never know you have wings." And so our next journey will lead us to another lesson, that freedom only comes when we dare to fall into impermanence. Have you ever felt like a bird standing at the open door of its cage, the sky right there before you? Yet you still couldn't bring yourself to fly. Not because you have no wings, but because you're afraid to fall. When humans are afraid, we tend to seek safety. But safety is often the place that keeps us trapped the longest. Like a river searching for peace by refusing to flow, it becomes stagnant water. We fear risks, we fear failure, we fear loss. We even fear that we're not good enough to live a meaningful life. Yet in Zen, there is one simple but profound truth. Freedom only exists when we accept the fall. And the story of Master Ryumen's little bird is a living example of that truth. In the garden behind the monastery, among the sound of rustling leaves and the scent of damp earth, there was a small bird with a wounded wing. One early morning, when the grass was still covered in mist, Master Ryumen saw it lying beneath a pine tree, its body trembling, wings drooping fragile and weak. He knelt down, extended his hand. The bird didn't struggle. It only quivered slightly, as if sensing the peace that radiated from the man before it. The master lifted it gently into his palm and carried it back to his room. From that day on, each morning, when the master chanted sutras, the little bird would rest quietly beside him, its tiny eyes open, watching the sunlight stream through the wooden window, painting the wall with shimmering patterns. The master fed it, cleaned its wound, and sometimes just sat in silence, listening to the soft rhythm of its breath. Gradually, the wound healed. Its wings began to move, trembling, testing what they had forgotten. But strangely, even when healed, the bird refused to fly. One morning the sky was crystal clear. The wind gently stirred the white blossoms in the courtyard. Master Ryumen carried the bird outside, opened his hand, and sunlight shimmered on its feathers. He spoke softly, his voice gentle as the wind. "You are healed now. Fly." But the little bird only trembled, gazing at the vast sky, then pulled itself back into the safety of his palm. Its whole body shrank in fear. The master looked at it and smiled kindly. "What are you afraid of?" The bird tilted its head, its dark eyes glistening as if to say, "I'm afraid of falling." The master nodded, his voice soft yet resonant. "If you never fall, you will never know you have wings." A light breeze swept through, scattering a few petals. Sunlight reflected off the small wings, making them glow as if awakened. There was a brief stillness. Then the bird spread its wings. At first, it leapt awkwardly, unsteady, almost falling. But little by little, the trembling wings grew firm. It flew not high, but enough to draw a gentle curve across the clear blue sky. Master Ryumen stood quietly, hands folded, watching. Above him, the bird circled once, twice, then disappeared into the distant trees, where the morning light dissolved into the leaves. The master whispered, his voice calm as wind through bamboo. "Freedom doesn't lie in the wings, but in believing you can use them." In the silence that followed, birdsong echoed through the garden, small, fragile, yet boundlessly free. The story of the little bird is a reflection of us all. We are not trapped in cages. We are trapped within the fear inside our own minds. In Zen, fear is called a self-made prison. No one locks the door, yet we still don't dare to walk out. We build fences from memory, past failures, harsh words, old wounds, and then tell ourselves the world outside is too dangerous. But the Buddha taught, no one binds you except your own mind. Fear isn't real. It is only the shadow of what we have not yet faced. And the miracle is this: when we finally turn to face it, it disappears. The bird feared flying because it once fell. Humans fear love because they once hurt. We fear speaking the truth because we were once silenced. We fear starting over because we once failed. But if we live only to avoid falling, we will never touch the sky that belongs to us. Zen doesn't teach us to avoid falling, it teaches us to fall with awareness. Because in the moment of falling, we finally feel the true weight of fear and realize it was never real. Every one of us has been that bird. Maybe you are standing before a new chance, a new path, a new relationship, knowing it is meant for you, but still hesitating. You wait for the fear to go away, but fear never leaves. It only fades when you move through it. Scientists call this active exposure. When you dare to face what scares you, the nervous system slowly learns that there is no real danger. Over time, the brain learns to find calm in uncertainty. The Buddha expressed this same truth through the language of impermanence. No fall lasts forever, and no pain stays. Everything is movement, and within that movement, we learn to fly. Think about it. How many times in life have you said, "I can't," when in truth, you simply hadn't dared to try? The moment you try, your wings unfold. And once they open, no one can hold you back, except yourself. When night falls, fear becomes louder. In the darkness, the mind is like the little bird trembling. wanting to stay in its nest, afraid to face the vast sky. But if we only live within the warm nest of our familiar thoughts, we will sleep without rest and live without truly living. Before you sleep, try this simple practice. Sit quietly. Take a slow, deep breath. Imagine a door opening before you. Beyond it lies the night sky, vast and still. Inside, you may still feel fear, but the moment you exhale, you've already taken your first step. Don't try to push fear away, just recognize it. Whisper softly, "I'm afraid, but I'm still breathing." Each breath is a wing unfolding. When you lie down, let your body soften like the wind, your mind open like the sky. Let yourself fall into sleep like the little bird falling into the wind, not trying to fly, yet still being lifted. If you enter sleep with such surrender, it is no longer escape, it is a return to yourself, to peace, to stillness. Life never stops testing us. Every fear is an invitation to open your wings and step out of your own cage. And only when we dare to fall do we discover within impermanence there are wings that never die. But after we learn to fly, a deeper truth appears. We are not only afraid of falling, we are afraid of our own echo, afraid to hear our loneliness, afraid to hear the parts of ourselves still unhealed. In the next story, a disciple faced that fear in the darkness of night. When he screamed in terror, the mountain answered, "I am you." And in that moment, he realized every fear he had ever known was only the echo of his own heart. Have you ever realized that what we fear the most isn't the darkness, but the echo that comes from within ourselves? When we are alone with no one around, suddenly we can hear the voice of our own mind, a small, trembling voice we've always avoided facing. We fear loneliness, failure, and being hurt. But in truth, none of those fears come from the outside world. They come from within, from the parts of ourselves we haven't yet accepted. The Buddha taught, "The mind creates the world. The world is not outside the mind. If we find the world frightening, it's because our mind is not yet at peace. And if we dare to look into our own darkness, we will discover something. Darkness isn't real. It's simply where the light hasn't reached yet." That night, a disciple climbed the mountain in the dark, seeking an answer to the fear that had haunted him all his life. And at the summit, in the stillness, he heard a whisper from within himself. The mountain path twisted and turned. The night fog was so thick he could only see a few steps ahead. Pebbles crunched under his feet, insects hummed softly, and the wind whispered through the ancient pines like the earth itself breathing. The young monk held a small oil lamp, taking slow, careful steps. Inside him, excitement mixed with a vague, nameless fear. Master Riemann had once told him, "If you wish to understand yourself, climb the mountain in the darkest night." He had thought it was just a metaphor for meditation, for facing one's own mind. But tonight, he decided to do it literally, to climb a mountain without moonlight, with only wind and mist. The higher he went, the thicker the darkness grew. The lamp flickered weakly, its light fragile as a breath under the heavy sky. Cold wind swept through, making his robe flap loudly. Each time the wind howled, it carried faint stretching sounds as though someone were calling his name. He turned around. No one. Only forest fog and the distant echo of the mountain's breath. He kept walking, but the fear grew. His heart pounded. His throat tightened. Then another gust came, this time with words. Go back. The voice wasn't loud, but it struck deep inside him. He froze, listening, then shouted, trembling, Who's there? Only an echo came back from the cliffs. Who's there? There. The echo of his own voice made him shiver. He started to run. The faster he ran, the closer the echo followed, like a shadow that wouldn't leave. Every footstep, every breath sounded louder, more terrifying in the dark void around him. Finally, he collapsed beside a large rock. The wind howled through the cracks like the mountain sighing. Exhausted, he cried out, Who are you that keeps haunting me? From afar, a slow, clear reply came back word by word. I am you. He froze. A chill ran down his spine, then suddenly tears streamed down his face. Not out of fear, but understanding. In that instant, he realized that what had terrified him all along wasn't the mountain, nor the night, but the echo of his own mind. His fear had never come from the outside. It had always lived within each breath, each thought he hadn't dared to face. He sat still, his crying blending into the wind, then fading away. All fear dissolved, leaving only silence so deep he could hear his heartbeat touching the earth. When he opened his eyes, the darkness was still there, but it no longer frightened him. At dawn, when the first sunlight touched the peak, Master Ryuman found him meditating under the rock, calm, as if no storm had ever existed within. The master asked, What did you find in the darkness? He opened his eyes, smiled softly, and said, I met myself, and there, amid the forest still wet with dew, the disciple understood darkness was never the enemy. What's truly frightening is forgetting that the echo we hear is just our own heart calling us home. In Zen, the mountain is a symbol of the mind. Climbing it is the journey inward. And darkness isn't something outside. It is ignorance, the part of us not yet illuminated by awareness. The disciple thought he feared the night, the wind, and the echoes, but in truth he feared seeing the unrest within himself. The Buddha taught, the one who does not fear darkness is the one who knows that light still exists within it. Just like when we fear losing someone, being betrayed, or life not going our way, we think we fear the world, but truly, we fear our own emotions. We fear facing our loneliness, that empty space we've never dared to sit with. In meditation, awakening doesn't mean erasing fear. It means looking directly at it until it dissolves. Because when we truly look, we see fear is only the echo of the self, the echo of attachment. When the mind clings to the ego, the world feels threatening. When the mind lets go, everything returns to its natural flow. The wind is just wind. The night is just night. And the echo is simply us speaking to ourselves. Every fear carries a message. It doesn't come to hurt us, but to tell us that something within needs to be understood. Modern psychology calls this mirror projection, when what we fear or dislike in others is actually what we haven't accepted in ourselves. The fear of betrayal comes from a love that doesn't yet trust. The fear of loss comes from not understanding impermanence. And the fear of loneliness comes from never having truly sat with ourselves. The Dharma teaches deeply about this. When we realize that others are merely reflections of our own mind, the world becomes gentler. Not because the world changed, but because we stopped fighting ourselves. Letting go of fear doesn't mean becoming numb. It means trusting in the indestructible nature of life, knowing that no matter how deep the darkness, light is always there. Like the disciple who didn't chase the night away but sat quietly within it, and in that silence heard his own voice. When we accept fear, it loses its power. When we accept impermanence, every change becomes a lesson. And when we accept ourselves, the world becomes kinder. When night falls before you sleep, let your mind be still like a lake. If any fear arises of loneliness, failure, or tomorrow, don't push it away. Listen to it as the disciple listened to the mountain. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Whisper to yourself, I hear my fear. And just observe without judgment, without running. After a few moments, something beautiful happens. When we stop resisting, the voice of fear grows softer, like wind fading through the trees. The mind clears, the breath deepens, and sleep becomes gentle. In Zen practice, there is a meditation called listening to the echo. Sitting still, not trying to change any sound, simply listening. The more we listen, the more we see every sound, every fear, every emotion arises from the same place. And that place is you. May your sleep tonight be a kind response from the mountain, within a soft whisper saying, it's all right. I am still here. When the disciple descended the mountain the next morning, his steps were light as the wind, not because he had become someone new, but because he had seen clearly all fear is a reflection. And when the mirror is clear, we can see the blue sky even in the darkest night. Life is the same. When we stop fighting what we cannot control, we finally begin to live. We no longer fear storms or wind or loss or change, because within us lies a mountain that will never collapse. In the next story, the monk who slept through the storm, someone reaches that same peace. While the whole temple feared the roof would collapse from wind and rain, one monk continued to sleep soundly. When asked why he wasn't afraid, he simply smiled and said, "If the roof falls, I'll awaken in another dream." A simple answer, yet it holds the heart of Zen. When we no longer fear impermanence, life becomes serene. Have you ever gone through a stormy night, not just outside, but inside your own heart? A storm of anxiety, of loss, of fear that tomorrow everything might fall apart. When faced with uncertainty, our instinct is to hold on tightly to our possessions, our loved ones, our reputation, our beliefs, as if letting go would mean losing everything. But we forget that even as we cling, we cannot stop the storm from coming. In the Dharma, there is a paradox few dare to live by. Only when you accept loss can you truly find peace. The story of that stormy night in a small mountain temple tells of a Zen master who lived that truth completely. A man who could sleep peacefully through a raging storm while the world around him trembled in fear. It began raining in the afternoon. At first, just small drops sliding down the old tiled roof. Then the wind rose, bending the bamboo groves around the temple. As night fell, thunder tore open the sky, flashing across the ancient temple that stood silent on the mountain slope like an old spirit facing the power of nature. Thunder rolled through the valley, mixing with the pounding rain on the cracked tiles, creating a chaotic symphony of earth and sky. The young monks ran about in panic. One rushed to fetch water from the kitchen, another climbed up to check for leaks. The wind grew fiercer. The roof creaked, tiles clattered to the ground, each sound making their hearts quiver. Everyone feared that the temple might not survive the night. The air was filled with the howling wind, the crashing thunder, the relentless rain beating like waves determined to wash everything away. But amid the chaos in a small room by the veranda, the old master lay still. The dim candlelight revealed his face, serene and gentle, as though the thunder and wind were merely part of an evening chant. His breath was slow, steady, undisturbed. A young monk soaked in rain ran in trembling and called out anxiously, "Master, the roof might collapse. How can you still be sleeping?" The master opened his eyes. In them shone a deep calm like moonlight resting on a lake during a storm. He spoke softly, his voice warm and unhurried. "If the roof falls, I will awaken in another dream." The young monk froze. He couldn't fully grasp the meaning, but he felt something both unsettling and deeply comforting in those words. The wind rose again, shaking the window, tilting the flame of the candle. But the master only smiled faintly, pulled the blanket to his chest, and closed his eyes as if continuing a meditation within his dream. Outside, the storm roared. Thunder rumbled. Yet inside that small room, there was only the soft, steady breathing of one who rested peacefully in the heart of the tempest. That night, the roof did not fall. When morning came, the rain ceased. Mist draped over the wet roof tiles, and the soft light of dawn filtered through the cracks of the window. But the master's words echoed endlessly in the young monk's heart, like a flame that would never go out in the one who once knew fear. Years later, when the master passed away, the temple still stood amid the mountains. Beneath the eaves, beside an ancient pine, the disciple carved his teacher's words into stone. "If the roof falls, I will awaken in another dream." Each time a storm returned, people would stand under the eaves and read that line. Amid the sound of rain, they could almost hear the master's voice, peaceful, clear, and free amidst all change. The master's words were a deep meditation on impermanence and trust in the indestructible nature of life. In Zen, the storm is not just a natural event, it's a metaphor for the turbulence within the mind. The rain is emotion, the wind is thought, and the temple roof our inner self. When storms come, most of us respond with fear. We worry the roof will fall, the body will be harmed, our shelter will be lost. meaning we fear for the self for what we own. But a true practitioner understands that nothing ever truly belongs to us. Even this body is just a temporary house the mind is staying in. Master Koshu slept peacefully, not because he was indifferent, but because he no longer saw separation between himself and the storm. The storm was just the storm. The wind was just the wind. Only when we attach the idea of me to it, my storm, my fear, my temple, do we begin to suffer. The Buddha said, "One who lives with awareness of impermanence lives in peace amidst change." Death, loss, and destruction are only transformations in the continuous flow of energy. If the temple were to fall, it would only be the physical form dissolving. The awakened mind would still wake in another dream. Life today is no different from that stormy night in the old temple. We fear losing our jobs, our loved ones, changing our bodies, aging, the uncertainty of the world. But what truly causes suffering is not the events themselves. It's the false belief that we can control them all. When the storm comes, the awakened do not fight the wind. They anchor their minds in mindfulness and simply observe. They know the wind never lasts forever, and every roof someday will be replaced. Modern science calls this the paradox of control. The more people try to control everything, the more anxious they become. Conversely, when one accepts that some things lie beyond control, the brain releases calming hormones, restoring balance. This mirrors the Buddha's teaching. Letting go is not failure. It is deep understanding of impermanence. The Zen master could sleep through the storm because he knew when there is nothing to hold, there is nothing to lose. He trusted the cycle of all things, that everything only transforms, never disappears. When we see life through that understanding, fear dissolves. It has nowhere to stay because we have nothing left to cling to. Each night before sleep, if your mind feels restless, remember the image of that master. The storm outside may rage, but if peace lives within you, nothing can disturb it. Try a simple practice. Lie down, inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Imagine yourself in a small mountain temple listening to rain falling on the roof. Instead of worrying it might collapse, listen to the rain as a melody. Feel each drop washing away your fears. And when your mind begins to whisper, "What if?" just smile gently and say to yourself, "If the roof falls, I will awaken in another dream." That statement is not pessimism. It's a reminder that life never ends. It only changes form. Even this sleep is part of an endless flow. May you sleep tonight like Master Koshu, without dreams, without fear, without holding on. We have journeyed through many Zen stories together, from the monk and the tiger's shadow to the bird that wouldn't fly, the whispering mountain, and now the monk who slept through the storm. All lead to the same truth. Fear exists only as long as we believe there is a self that can be lost. The bird feared falling because it didn't trust its wings. The disciple feared the dark because he didn't recognize his own echo. And the Zen master rested in the storm because he no longer distinguished between the falling roof and awakening. They all teach the same wisdom. When you realize nothing belongs to you, you have nothing to fear losing. Letting go of the fear of loss means understanding that everything is just passing through. Letting go of the fear of judgment means realizing your worth doesn't depend on others' eyes. Letting go of the illusion of self means understanding that I is only a temporary image in an endless flow. When we accept impermanence, fear naturally dissolves, and deep trust in the eternal nature of life, that is the highest form of letting go. May tonight be a peaceful night. If there is a storm outside, listen. If fear arises within, smile. Because perhaps in that moment of release, you will rest more deeply, like the master who once lay still beneath the rain, dwelling peacefully in a dream without fear. When one truly understands that nothing is mine, fear begins to melt away like snow under sunlight. The fear of loss fades because we see everything as temporary. The fear of judgment fades because we no longer need to prove ourselves. Fear itself is an illusion created by the ego, and when the ego dissolves, only freedom remains. The Buddha taught all phenomena are without self. To see this truth is to find peace. When we accept impermanence, we stop running from death, change, or disappointment. And when we trust the natural balance of life, that all things know how to return to harmony, that is pure faith, the highest form of letting go. Letting go is not weakness nor indifference. Letting go means living wholeheartedly without fear of loss, loving deeply without attachment, walking through storms, yet keeping a mind as calm as a still lake. Thank you for listening and walking this path with us. The journey of looking deeply within to see that fear is not real, only an echo of the mind. If these Zen reflections have brought you peace, please share that energy by subscribing to Buddhism Seeds, liking, sharing, and leaving your reflections below. Each share plants a small seed of peace in this world. May your night be quiet and clear, your breath gentle, and your sleep become a deep meditation where there is no fear, only the luminous calm of moonlight on water.